everyone. I'm Ashton McManus, Director of Marketing at Affectiva. Welcome to the second season of Affectiva Asks, a human-centric AI podcast, where each episode we will interview a thought leader doing cutting-edge work in the AI space. A little bit about us. Affectiva is the pioneer of emotion AI, software that can detect nuanced human emotions in complex cognitive states. When we spun out of the MIT Media Lab in 2009, one of the early uses of our tech was in market research, where it helped brands understand how consumers were responding emotionally to their video ad content. Today's episode features Graham Page, Global Managing Director of Media Analytics at Affectiva. During the interview, he talks to us about his background and career trajectory to Affectiva, while also addressing the challenges of marketers and even the crossover of media content monetization into the automotive industry. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. With me, I have Graham Page. Thank you so much for making the time to speak with me.
Not at all.
So to start, tell us a little bit about your background. How has your career path taken you to Affectiva?
I've worked in the marketing and marketing insights industries for over 25 years, primarily working with brands and advertisers to help them understand how people feel about their brands, how powerful they are, and also how to optimize their marketing communications to promote brands and help people make choices. So I've done that for a long time. As part of that process, I've spent a lot of time looking at the methods from cognitive science and neuroscience and how those methods can help marketers understand people better and make better brand choices and, offer a stronger return on the investments that they're making. And so as part of that, I did a lot of work looking at how, different ways of measuring people's responses might help or not help so much. So, I've looked at a lot of technologies, including putting people in brain scanners, putting, EEG skull caps on people. Those things are interesting, but none of them are particularly scalable or comfortable. So one of the pieces of work I did maybe a decade ago was looking into the benefits or the utility of people's facial expressions as a means of understanding their responses. And the company that I did that with was Affectiva originally. And so I've worked with the business for many years. And that's led me to ultimately move into the business and now lead the media analytics group.
Wonderful. Excellent. So now with your role at Affectiva, which I think you've been here 4 months, 5 months?
Yeah, about that, maybe 6 months
roughly,
now. Time goes quickly.
By the time, this goes out. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your role and, how it relates to our applications in the media analytics space?
Sure. So I'm responsible for running the media analytics division. So that's the part of the business that works with advertisers, marketers, market research businesses to help give better insights about people's responses to all forms of media content effectively. So if a publisher wants to understand how people respond to a particular program or a trailer, they can use our technology for that purpose. And I'm responsible for the group that delivers those insights to clients.
Excellent. Great. So for those of, our listeners who are unfamiliar with Affectiva's background in media analytics, which I know you just spoke to a little bit, can you explain briefly, what our offerings are?
Sure. So I guess the challenge that we meet and with our offerings is about emotional understanding. So traditionally, a lot of brands and marketers use survey-based research methodologies or focus groups to understand how people might respond to a product concept or how they might respond to an advertising campaign. And those are powerful tools that have been used for many years. But one of the challenges that brings is, people often say perhaps what they wish were true, or when they reflect upon how they feel about something, they may give a summary rather than really understand exactly how they felt. And so by using methods such as Affectiva's emotion AI technology, looking at people's faces, listening to their voices, we can, I think, add some significantly enhanced insight there, because people don't have to think about how they feel. They don't have to think about why they did something. We can kind of see in the moment what really lit them up, what really annoyed them, and therefore provide marketers with much more insight about what it is that's really powerful and really connecting with people and the things that perhaps they are less happy with. So our offers essentially are a number of technologies that allow us to provide that insight, one of which in particular is integrating with some of the survey tools that the marketing insights industry already uses. So we will often be kind of part of a survey, for instance, which then allows our clients to understand both what people say and also how they felt and how they reacted in the moment.
Mm-hmm. And another point for this platform, it's all with users' consent and they're opting in and all that good privacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really critical point that people do need to understand. So none of our data is collected without people's consent. So if, for instance, somebody is taking a survey about a piece of advertising, at the point where we play them the ad, they're asked if they consent to be filmed. And if they don't, then they continue anyway. There's no filming happening at that point. But if people do opt in, then we can record them. We just record them while they're watching the ad, and recording shuts off after that, and then they can go on to answer survey questions, but we'll have collected the data we need. So yeah, we're absolutely respectful of people's privacy. There's nothing surreptitious happening.
Excellent. Always good. So what are some of the challenges of those who work in the media analytics space?
I think, to come back to, I guess, the point I mentioned earlier, one of the hardest things for people in media to understand is how people feel, because we don't think about how we feel as we're feeling it, right? So it's quite a difficult thing to understand. People are very good, and we're almost kind of trained through our education to give rational reasons for why we do things. But actually understanding some of those more instinctive reactions that are really important in framing our thought processes and why we might decide to do something, to buy a particular brand or a new car or make a life choice. Understanding those instinctive responses is quite hard. And yet increasingly marketers are realizing and businesses are realizing that you've got to understand that initial response, that kind of emotional response, to really understand why people do something. So the challenge that we help marketers and businesses address is exactly that. So how did somebody feel in the moment that may then have influenced quite profoundly either the choice they made or how they evaluated an experience. So if as most businesses do, if we want to offer our customers a better experience, then understanding how they're responding to our ad campaigns or brand experiences is really important. And this technology allows an additional level of insight that they perhaps can't get just by talking to people. Yeah,
absolutely. So, and I think this is going to build a little bit on your answer, but based on your work, what do you think that brands or marketers need to do or recommend that they focus on when they're thinking about these campaigns?
Yeah, and it absolutely speaks to what we were just discussing. I think the more that brands can understand their customers, the more the businesses can understand the people that are buying or might buy their services, then the more effectively they can create services that people really want, and the more successful they will be. I think everyone knows that emotion is important, but actually a lot of the metrics that businesses use to make their choices are still quite rational. They're looking at kind of hard sales figures, and they're looking at what people have said on feedback forms or on social media. Actually understanding what's happened in the moment as somebody's gone through an experience or experience an ad campaign, that is adding a real level of detail and a level of insight that really helps, I think, a lot of businesses just get better at delivering for their customers' needs. And so, we've seen over the last decade that businesses are focusing more and more on that. But I think what they could still do with are better metrics to really make decisions in a more considered way based on how people, not just on what people say, but on what they feel.
Excellent. So how are we working with Kantar? What other partners of ours would you highlight, and what do their products look like?
So I think, as you suggested there, so one of our big partners is Kantar, and that's the business that I worked at prior to coming to Affectiva. Again, a lot of the work that we do together is in the marketing campaign development space. So ensuring that clients' advertising investments are effective and that they're making a not just publicizing a product, but then making an emotional connection with consumers, because that's important in attracting people to you. So a lot of the work we do together is in particularly pre-testing advertising before it goes to air, so that what is a significant investment for the business can be, made as good as it can be. So as we suggested earlier on, we, along with Kantar, we'll, using market research panels, we'll invite people to a survey, have them watch an ad, at which point, with their consent, we'll record them and measure their emotional responses. But then also they can answer some questions that Kantar have carefully over the years calibrated against behavioral responses. And together, our emotional insight and kind of immediate response insight can then be combined with people's more considered answers to give a whole brain view of how people have responded to that ad, and that's incredibly powerful for a lot of the world's biggest advertisers. So between us, I think we work with over 25% of the Fortune 500. So a lot of some of the biggest marketers in the world are using this technology alongside Kantar's work to really optimize what they do.
Awesome, excellent. So, as you know, as an employee of Affectiva, we're also working in the automotive space. We're providing in-cabin sensing solutions to OEMs and Tier 1s. I understand you may have some insights surrounding automotive and market research, and I was wondering if you could share that, or if you have some insights for us.
Sure. Automotive brands rightly spend a lot of their time optimizing the car itself, the in-cabin experience, the features, and so on. And there's a lot of research done to help that process, to make sure that the look and feel and the touch of the vehicle is sending the right message, or that people are going to be really delighted with different features. So unsurprisingly, lots of work's done to make that as good as it can be. A lot of that again takes time and is complicated. So adding in a layer of emotional insight through kind of observing people, as well as just asking them questions after you've shown them a car, for instance, or had them go through an experience. Adding that layer of insight, I think can really help with spotting when something is going to be a problem, if a new feature is beginning to annoy people, or if people are really kind of lit up by a particular experience. So we've already done some work with some auto manufacturers where, again, people have been invited to try out a new feature, and we've then been able to, with their consent, record them, and then almost use that insight to say, well, okay, look, you seem to be struggling at this point. Well, tell us more about that. Why was that? So you get that sense, you get to hone in on a particular possible problem, but then also use more conventional research to understand why that was. So we've already done some work in that space, and I think there's a lot of growth opportunity there.
Yeah, and another piece of this, and I think it's super interesting, when you're thinking about, taxis, we used to sit in the back seat and see the content that was kind of played, like commercials or Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. When you're looking to the future of that automotive experience, it could be a robo-taxi, it could be, just the iPads that are available for kids to watch in the back seat. What are your thoughts on how you could, monetize that, or what does that kind of look like?
No, it's a really fair point, because as the interior of vehicles becomes more of an entertainment space and less of a driving space, then obviously these sorts of applications become really important. And of course, if we can understand what is lighting people up about the content that they're watching, then that offers a number of opportunities. So as a passenger, if the system understands that you like a particular form of content, you tend to like comedies rather than serious dramas, then perhaps some of that content can be tailored for you as soon as you kind of sit in the vehicle, because it knows who you are, but also it knows how you tend to respond. So there's means by which we can make the occupant's experience better. But also conversely, to pick up on your point about kind of taxi advertising, again, a lot of that those kind of systems don't really understand how people are responding. So if those systems did understand that, again, a certain type of content is not working well, then again, the systems can begin to switch that out for something which is more, more positive and more effective. And equally, it can understand that it shouldn't show a type of content, certain types of content to certain people. So the opportunity for making sure that the people who see, say, advertising are the right sort of people, but also more engaged, I think becomes much greater when you have a technology that is sensitive to the emotional state of the occupant.
Absolutely. Super interesting. So if you had one takeaway for listeners today, what would you like to tell them?
I think that technologies like this can, on the face of it, sound occasionally scary. What I don't necessarily want to be observed is a natural response that many people have. Mm-hmm. But I think my view is the more that brands and businesses understand customers, the better the experiences and the brands and the products and the advertising campaigns that they create can be. And I don't think it's therefore something to necessarily be feared. It actually should lead to businesses doing a better job for their customers, and that's to the benefit of everybody. And as long as these technologies are applied sensitively and with the appropriate privacy constraints, then I actually think this is a win for lots of people.
Definitely, yeah. So what are some of the other areas of media analytics we're working on? What's up next?
So, the nice thing about this is that there are so many potential applications of the technology to different areas of marketing and business insight. We're still working on extending some of the advertising development work that we do. So, for instance, one of the things that we've just completed some pilot work on and we'll be releasing alongside our partners soon is the ability to combine the measurement of people's emotional responses with their behavioral actions as they, say, interact with a website or interact with a digital advertising campaign. So understanding, for instance, if people actually played ads when they interact with them on, say, YouTube, or whether they looked at them when they were on Facebook, and are there any emotional triggers to those kind of behaviors? That kind of insight's I think really helpful for a lot of digital businesses and a lot of marketers who are increasingly spending their money in digital campaigns. So that's an area of work that's very active and will be coming out very soon. But also we're exploring other applications. For instance, there are big businesses that look at the audiences behind, say, TV programming or video programming. We're having some interesting conversations there around, can we overlay a level of engagement that the audience has with that content over just the sheer numbers of people that those programs are reaching? And I think that's incredibly helpful for media businesses themselves to understand not just how many people watched, but what it was that they liked about it, so that then programming can be optimized and the right kind of content can be created and shared with different audiences. So there's a number of other applications, but those are two that spring to mind that are pretty hot at the moment.
So also, can you let us know where listeners can go to learn more, or do you have any other call to action for them?
Sure. Obviously, if people want to learn more, the natural place to go to is Affectiva.com. Also try the Affectiva Emotion AI Summit site, because we have put a lot of material up there. I gave a paper on the role of purposeful advertising and how important that is and how people respond to ads with purpose messages. I gave a talk at the last summit on that. So if people want to hear more and download that, then that's there for them to do so.
Excellent. Yeah, and we also have the next Emotion AI Summit. We're targeting, I think it's going to be October. So stay tuned for more updates around that. I think we will probably have a media analytics track, so you may be speaking again.
I hope so. And I think, given the huge amount of data that we have, and we have got, data on thousands of ads, there's a huge amount of insight that will be generated from that. And we'll be sharing a lot more of that at the next Emotion AI Summit.
Do you know what the latest number is? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I think we have data on 48,000 ads now. I think so. It's a huge number, and and that's from all over the world.
Yeah,
so right. you have we have such a variety of cultures and people responding to different sorts of content. The insight that we can gather from that data is huge.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. So that's all I had for you. Thank you again so much, Graham, and thanks for listening.
It's a pleasure.
Awesome. I really liked Graham's point where he comments on challenges marketers face in media analytics, where he mentions that we have been almost conditioned to give rational reasons for why we do things, but in reality, reasons we may decide to do or buy something in the moment is more instinctive. This conversation with Graham helped me to understand how Affectiva is providing a tool for market researchers where users don't have to think about how they felt about a piece of content, because our technology can pick up on what they naturally responded to. I'm delighted to share that Graham and his team will also be presenting some new insights from our global ads database of over 40,000 ads at this year's Emotion AI Summit on October 14th in Boston. Visit emotionaisummit.com to learn more and to register for your spot. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to Affectiva's Human-Centric AI podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes. We're also on social media, so please reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at Affectiva to share any feedback you have on the show and weigh in on the discussion using hashtag AffectivaAsks. Don't forget to rate us and comment with your feedback to help make the podcast more discoverable for others. Until next time, thanks for listening.